When you finally stop giving a damn, something powerful happens. Something most men never realize because they're too busy chasing, explaining, or overthinking. The moment you pull your energy back, when you stop trying to force connection or prove your worth, she's left alone with the very silence she never expected. That silence becomes a mirror, and in that mirror, she has to confront every insecurity, every doubt, every fear she tried to hide behind confidence or attitude. Suddenly the dynamic changes, not because you said anything, not because you argued, but because your absence forces her to feel what your presence used to comfort. When a woman senses that you've stopped pouring emotional energy into her, she starts questioning the very foundation she took for granted. She begins replaying your past conversations, the way you used to show up for her, the messages you used to send, the attention you used to give. And slowly, she realizes that your effort wasn't something she was owed. It was something you chose. When that choice disappears, she feels it. She may not show it. She may act unfazed. But inside, her mind starts racing. Why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he chasing? Why doesn't he care anymore? That emotional disruption is what makes her start losing her grip. Because your detachment shines a spotlight on the parts of her she never wanted to face. Maybe she got comfortable thinking you'd always be there. Maybe she assumed no matter how she acted, you'd keep showing up. Maybe she believed you needed her more than she needed you. But when you stop giving a damn, that illusion breaks. It exposes her fear of losing control, her fear of losing significance in your life, her fear of not being enough when your energy is no longer feeding her ego or her emotions. That's the moment she realizes that she was never the one holding all the power. You were. And you never needed to announce it. The shift in your behavior speaks for itself. Women feel emotional change before they understand it. So when your detachment hits, she doesn't process it logically at first. She feels it emotionally. That's why she becomes restless. That's why she starts overthinking. That's why she suddenly pays more attention to you than ever before. She wants to solve a puzzle she never expected to exist. Before, she knew the role you played. Consistent, available, caring too much. Now, she has no script. And that uncertainty pulls her deeper into her own thoughts. She starts wondering if she pushed you too far. If she took you for granted. If someone else is getting the attention she used to receive effortlessly. Your silence forces her to confront the one thing she tried to avoid: accountability. And what's powerful is that you didn't do any of this to manipulate her. You simply chose yourself. You stopped giving your energy to someone who didn't appreciate it. You stopped trying to convince someone who didn't listen. You stopped investing in a person who expected your effort instead of valuing it. That shift is what makes her feel the loss. Not because you punished her, but because you finally put yourself, respect above her validation. When she realizes you're no longer emotionally tied to her, she feels the distance in a way that words could never communicate. She starts feeling the weight of your withdrawal, the absence of your support, the missing warmth she got used to. And no matter how strong she pretends to be, no matter how indifferent she acts, something inside her starts to panic. Because losing a man who genuinely cared, losing a man who was solid, present, and consistent, hits differently when she thought he would never leave. And that's the moment she understands the truth she ignored for too long: your care was a privilege she didn't honor. When a woman is used to men chasing her, validating her, trying to win her attention, she builds an identity around being desired. It becomes the norm in her world. Men compete, men pursue, men fight for a chance to prove themselves. So when you suddenly step out of that pattern and refuse to play the role she expects, her entire emotional system is thrown off balance. She doesn't just notice the shift, she feels it deeply. Because the truth is, she was prepared for your pursuit, not your absence. She was prepared for your efforts, not your silence. And that's exactly why she starts losing her mind the moment you stop giving a damn. In her mind, she had you figured out. She believed she knew your reactions, your emotional availability, your attachment. She thought you would respond the way every other guy responds, by chasing harder whenever she created distance. But when you don't do that, it disrupts her emotional rhythm. She doesn't know how to process a man who doesn't fold under pressure. She doesn't know how to interpret a man who doesn't beg for clarity or validation. It forces her to question whether she ever truly understood you. Women react emotionally when expectations are broken, and you breaking the expectation of chasing creates a kind of confusion that quickly turns into curiosity. Why did he stop trying? Did his feelings change? Did he lose interest? Did he find someone else? These questions hit harder than any argument could. Because the moment she can't predict you, you start standing out in her mind. The moment she can't read you, she starts watching you more closely. The moment she can't control your attention, she starts wanting it back. And this isn't about games. It's about energy. When you were giving too much, she didn't need to appreciate it. She could relax, knowing her emotional security was guaranteed by your consistency. But when you pull back, she's forced to confront the fact that your attention wasn't permanent, it was voluntary. And losing something voluntary hurts more, because it reminds her that she wasn't the one holding the power. She may try to act unbothered. She may pretend she didn't notice. She may stay quiet, hoping you'll go back to the old pattern, but inside, she feels it. Women are sensitive to emotional shifts. They pick up on small changes quickly, and when the emotional supply they expected suddenly stops flowing, it shakes them. Her mind begins replaying moments where she dismissed you, ignored you, or took you for granted. Now those moments haunt her because she fears they pushed you away permanently. This is where the power dynamic flips. While she once believed you were the one trying to earn her, now she starts questioning whether she still has access to you. She may try to test you subtly, liking old posts, appearing in your orbit, watching your stories, giving indirect signals. These aren't random actions. They are signs of emotional disturbance. She wants to know if the door is still open without having to admit she wants it open. Your lack of reaction increases her internal chaos. When you don't take the bait, she becomes even more emotionally invested in figuring you out. The more unpredictable your energy becomes, the more her attraction grows, because unpredictability activates desire. Predictability activates comfort, but unpredictability activates fascination. And fascination is what brings a woman back with more intensity than before. Your refusal to chase sends a powerful message: she isn't the center of your universe. You're not a toy she can summon at will. You're a man with direction, with standards, with the strength to walk away from anything that doesn't honor your value. That realization forces her to feel something she didn't expect: respect. And with respect comes renewed attraction. When she loses what she thought she controlled, she realizes how much it meant. When you stop giving a damn, your entire energy shifts, and women feel that shift long before they understand it. A man who centers his life around a woman's approval is predictable, emotionally exposed, and easy to influence. But the moment you detach and redirect that same energy into your mission, your goals, and your growth, you become someone entirely different in her eyes. You become a man who is driven by purpose, not emotion. And purpose is one of the strongest masculine traits a woman responds to, even when she doesn't consciously realize it. She can feel when your attention is no longer scattered. She can sense when your focus isn't on her anymore. And that shift alone is enough to make her wonder what changed inside you. When your life becomes about something bigger than her, something deeper than validation, she starts seeing you in a new light. Before, she may have thought she had you figured out. She believed she could predict your reactions, your effort, and your priorities. But now, when she sees you investing time into your discipline, your career, your projects, your fitness, your future, it forces a psychological recalibration. She realizes she is no longer the center of your world. And that triggers something powerful inside her. Not fear of losing you, but fear of no longer mattering to you the way she assumes she always would. A man with a mission becomes harder to access emotionally. Not because he is trying to be cold, but because he genuinely has less space for anything that pulls him off his path. Your mission begins to shape your decisions, your reactions, and your boundaries. You no longer respond instantly. You no longer rearrange your schedule to fit hers. You no longer tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or emotional games. And that is when she starts feeling a loss of control. She realizes she can't interrupt your flow with her moods. She can't shift your priorities with manipulation. She can't shake your focus with silence. You have become grounded, stable, and unshakable. Traits she didn't fully see in you when you were overly invested in her. When a man chooses his mission first, he naturally becomes more attractive. It's not about pretending not to care. It's about genuinely caring more about the life you are building than the temporary emotions of someone else. And a woman can feel that authenticity. She begins to watch you more closely. She studies how you move, how you think, how you speak. She notices your discipline and it pulls her closer, because a man who is disciplined with himself is impossible to replace. She realizes that your value doesn't come from attention. You provide value through direction, purpose, and ambition. This is the kind of energy that forces her to question her own position in your life. Before, she felt secured by your pursuit. Now she feels uncertain because you've become a man she could lose. That uncertainty creates desire. It creates interest. It creates curiosity. You become a challenge again, not because you're playing games, but because your mission elevated you above her emotional expectations. She sees you improving without her. She sees you growing without her. She sees your confidence rising from internal strength, not her validation. And that is when she starts losing her grip on the dynamic she once controlled. You become the man she compares others to. You become the standard. You become the one she wonders about late at night. Not because you tried to become that man for her, but because you became that man for yourself. Purpose has always been the core of masculine presence, and once she senses that presence in you, her mindset shifts completely. She doesn't want the boy who chased her. She wants the man who outgrew her expectations. And that transformation begins the moment you stop giving a damn and start giving everything to your mission. When you stop giving a damn, you take back something far more powerful than your attention. You take back your emotional independence. And when a man becomes emotionally independent, everything about him changes in a way a woman can feel instantly. She senses the shift even before she understands it. Because emotional independence makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability in a man creates a kind of attraction she can't control, can't anticipate, and can't detach from easily. Women are naturally drawn to mystery, not chaos, but controlled mystery. The kind that comes from a man who doesn't react based on emotion, who doesn't need validation, and who doesn't crumble when she pulls away or tests his confidence. When you were overly invested, she knew exactly how you would respond. If she ignored you, she expected you to double text. If she pulled back, she assumed you would chase. If she gave attitude, she thought you would try to fix it. She believed your emotional state moved according to hers. Predictability makes you safe, but it also makes you forgettable. A man who is emotionally dependent becomes easy to read, and once she can read you, she can control you. Not because she wants to hurt you, but because humans naturally influence what they fully understand. But the moment you detach emotionally, she loses access to the emotional buttons she used to push. You don't get irritated when she pulls away. You don't get jealous when she acts differently. You don't get desperate when she slows her replies. You become still. You become grounded. You become composed. And that lack of emotional reaction removes her ability to predict you. Suddenly, she doesn't know what you're thinking, what you're planning, or where she stands with you. That uncertainty makes you far more intriguing than any attention you could have given her. Unpredictability doesn't mean being unstable. It means being centered in yourself. It means being guided by your values instead of her validation. It means being able to walk away without hesitation if something doesn't align with your standards. That kind of emotional power is rare, and women feel drawn to it because it reflects strength. It tells her you're not a man who can be swayed easily. You're not someone she can manipulate with emotions. You're not someone who fears losing her. And that fearlessness makes her imagine what life is like with a man who leads himself before trying to lead a relationship. When she can no longer predict you, she starts paying more attention to you. She studies your silence. She watches how you move. She wonders who you're talking to, what you're doing, and where your energy has shifted. That curiosity grows into desire, because desire always follows uncertainty. A man who is emotionally available but not emotionally dependent becomes magnetic. You give her just enough access to feel close, but not enough to control you. And that balance ignites her interest on a deeper level. With emotional independence, you stop reacting to every emotional shift she throws your way. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop trying to convince her to choose you. And instead, you become the man who chooses himself. That is the moment she starts chasing clarity. That is the moment she starts wondering what you're thinking. That is the moment she starts trying to reconnect with the version of you she underestimated. Because a man who doesn't depend on her emotions for stability becomes the kind of man she respects, the kind of man she desires, and the kind of man she fears losing. When you stop giving a damn, one of the most powerful things you take with you is your presence. And a man's presence is one of the most valuable forms of energy a woman ever experiences. Your presence is not just your physical body. It's your attention, your consistency, your reliability, your warmth, your support, and your emotional investment. Women feel presence on a deep psychological level, even when they pretend they don't. So when that presence disappears, even in silence, it hits harder than any words ever could. As she starts to feel the emptiness you used to fill, and that emptiness grows louder every day you stay detached. The absence of your attention forces her to sit in a space she never expected to be uncomfortable in. At first, she may not react. She may brush it off, thinking you'll come back the way you always do. She may assume the silence is temporary, but as the hours turn into days, and the days turn into weeks, she begins to realize something she never wanted to admit. She got used to having you. She got used to your messages, your check-ins, your support, your jokes, your emotional presence. And the moment it vanishes, her sense of stability begins to crack. Because suddenly, she is forced to feel the weight of losing something she never thought she would lose. Your silence speaks with a clarity that your words never could. Words can be argued with, debated, dismissed. Silence cannot. Silence forces her to confront her actions, her choices, and her behavior. She begins replaying moments she brushed you off, times she ignored your effort, times she acted cold, thinking you would always be there regardless. Now, without your presence to soothe her ego, she starts questioning herself. Did she push too far? Did she take you for granted? Did she lose something rare? That internal questioning becomes a loop she can't escape because silence amplifies everything she avoided acknowledging. But what truly impacts her is not just the absence. It's the contrast. She remembers the version of you who cared deeply. She remembers the man who tried, who invested, who showed up. The shift from that man to the man who simply steps back and focuses on himself creates a psychological shock. It forces her to face the truth that you were never obligated to give her anything. You chose to. And now that you've chosen yourself, she feels the loss in a way she can't hide from. That's why your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. It highlights your value. It shows her what life feels like without your energy. It exposes the difference between a man who gives and a man who withdraws. Women are emotional creatures, and emotional contrast is powerful. When you were present, she may not have appreciated it. When you are gone, she realizes how much that presence meant. Your absence also removes the safety net she used to lean on. She no longer has the reassurance of your attention. She no longer has the comfort of thinking you'll always come back. She no longer has the confidence that she can treat you however she wants without consequence. And that loss of safety creates a sense of anxiety she can't fully explain. She starts looking for signs of you. She checks your activity. She pays attention to what you post. She looks for hints of your life continuing without her. And every sign that you are moving forward without her increases the emotional impact of your absence. This is the moment she realizes something profound. Your presence was never a weakness. It was your power. And now that it's gone, she finally understands what she took for granted. When you stop giving a damn, when your emotional investment fades, when you no longer react or chase or cling, something shifts inside her that she cannot ignore. Because for the first time, she realizes that she was never the prize. You were. And that realization doesn't come gently. It comes with a rush of emotions she can't fully describe. Because losing the interest of a man who genuinely cared hits differently than losing the interest of someone who never mattered. She begins to understand that your presence, your energy, your attention were all forms of value she didn't appreciate until they were gone. In the beginning, she may have acted like she didn't need you. She may have played the strong, independent, uninterested role. She may have believed you were easily replaceable, just another man willing to overextend himself for her validation. But your detachment breaks that entire illusion. Because women don't regret losing men who begged or pleaded. They regret losing men who walked away silently, without bitterness, without explanation, without trying to prove anything. That kind of quiet exit forces her to confront the truth she avoided. She lost a man who was rare. A man who cared but didn't cling. A man who loved but didn't lose himself. A man who showed up but wasn't dependent. A man who was willing to give but not at the cost of his dignity. That combination is hard to find, and even harder to replace. When she senses that you've detached emotionally, she doesn't just notice the difference. She feels it in her entire nervous system. She feels the shift in how you talk, how you respond, how you move. A man who has stopped giving a damn carries a different energy. His voice is calmer. His presence is lighter. His focus is sharper. His attention is no longer scattered on someone who didn't appreciate it. She sees you redirecting that energy into yourself, your fitness, your money, your purpose, your peace. And it's that transformation that makes her realize she underestimated you. She begins to see that you were not a man desperate for her love. You were a man offering connection. You were not seeking her approval. You were offering your presence. You were not clinging. You were choosing. And now that you've stopped choosing her, she suddenly sees the full weight of what you brought into her life. She starts comparing the attention she gets from other men and realizes none of them match the quality you gave effortlessly. She compares the emotional depth, the consistency, the authenticity, and it makes her understand that your care was not ordinary. This is when the regret begins. Not because she lost someone who obsessed over her, but because she lost someone who could have been her anchor. She starts wondering what you're doing without her. She starts imagining who you're talking to. She starts fearing that another woman will receive the version of you she didn't respect. And that fear creates a level of emotional discomfort she never expected to feel. Because nothing hits a woman harder than realizing a man she once took lightly is now a man she can no longer access. Your detachment forces her to confront the truth: you were the real prize all along. It wasn't her attention you needed. It was your attention she should have valued. It wasn't her love that defined your worth. It was your love that elevated hers. And now that your energy is gone, she sees your value with a clarity she didn't have before. Because every woman realizes the worth of a good man eventually. But the moment she realizes it is usually the moment he no longer cares.